Welcome to another episode of the We Have a Meeting podcast. This week, we've got the great honour of being joined by a LinkedIn legend, Warrington's answer to Warren Buffett. I've been heard that he's called Warrington Buffett by some people.
That's true.
An e-learning entrepreneur and all-round good guy, Mike Winnet. Mike, how are you?
I'm really good. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all.
I've been looking forward to this all week.
I'm sure you have.
It's Tuesday.
So one thing that I always wonder when I listen to your stuff, obviously you've had quite a varied career and done quite a lot of things. If someone just asks you in a pub, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
I say I work in IT. I used to say I worked in content creation, but since the pandemic, OnlyFans has wrecked that for me. Everyone assumes instantly that you're on OnlyFans because everyone's a content creator, right? And they've got an OnlyFans now. So I would have said content creator, so like content marketing. Now I just say I work in IT and try and shuffle off before they ask me any questions about Wi-Fi and plugging it in, switching it on, switching it off. So, yeah.
You actually don't want to get into it with people then when people ask you?
Not at all, no. And especially if you meet someone for the first time, how do you explain Mike Winnet? Or I take the piss out. Do you know Gary Vee or do you know Grant Cardone? Like, yeah, I love him. Like, I take the piss out of people just like you that like people just like that. It's a bit of a hard sell, so I just say content marketing or I work in IT with computers and stuff.
You're quite forthcoming with your opinions. Would you say that you shy away from the limelight in a sense?
It's a weird one. A lot of people say this, especially on LinkedIn. They say like, "Oh, you used to say controversial things." Like none of the things that I say, I don't do it deliberately or think that this is controversial. Sometimes I just assume that most people think how I'm thinking, and this is a normal thing. But I don't really like this. I don't really like being on YouTube. I don't like being in the limelight. It's been a byproduct of some of the stuff that I've done, I suppose. But I'm not comfortable with it. And if you saw how many takes and how much I don't like being on camera, you'd be surprised when you actually saw the end product of when we, produced like the entrepreneur bingos and stuff like that. But yeah, I could give all this up. I've not posted a YouTube video for 11 months and I'm not really asked either. I say I'm a business person first. I would always take that with nobody knowing who I was over people knowing who I was and not having any sort of tangible reward for it. So I don't like the limelight if that was the question.
And it's interesting. If you could take away the limelight and just do the entrepreneurial side now, obviously you'd probably lose a couple of the perks, but would you?
100%, yeah. Yeah, 100%. I don't know if anyone knew this, but I never had social media until after I sold my business. The only social media profile that I had was LinkedIn. I've never had Facebook before, never had Instagram before, never been on Twitter, never had any of these profiles at all. I only got them when I started looking into the get rich quick stuff and the contrepreneur stuff, and I didn't know that word existed. So I'd never heard of Gary Vee until about 3 months before I met Gary Vee. Like I'd never heard about Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez. I was too busy focused on my own business and growing my own business. So the only kind of gurus that I knew at that time were people on LinkedIn. So it was like back then there was like Rob Moore used to post a lot of stuff. Oleg used to post a lot of shit. I don't know if you've seen like him. I don't know what's happened to him. But it was people like that. So I was just kind of parodying and mocking that tone of voice. It was like Captain Obvious stuff. Like, hey, guess what? If you employ a diverse workforce, you get diverse ideas. Fucking brilliant. That was like the top and bottom of some of the business advice that was on LinkedIn. So I just found that funny and just took the piss out of that stuff because I thought everyone else realized it was funny and stupid. Turns out a lot of people didn't. But so yeah.
I think I've only been using LinkedIn I started 4 months ago, and then you kind of learn. You're like, oh, not everybody thinks the same, or like you're scrolling through and you think some of the thoughts or feelings here are balmy. Like it's absolutely
well, some
madness.
of them you don't know now if they're in on the joke. Surely they're in on the joke is what I used to think. It turns out a lot of them aren't. I saw some guy post the other day saying, I know this goes against the narrative of LinkedIn, but I've been to the gym really early this morning. You don't get your reward unless you work hard. It's like, that doesn't go against the narrative on any platform, mate. That
That is the narrative.
That line's been like they've been saying that since day dot, haven't they? So work hard, get good results. Brilliant. What's the next post going to be like?
We like the stuff around. There's a lot of stuff on. We're obviously part of like sales community, and there's a lot of sales advice of when you get ignored and ghosted by someone, what do you do? And some of the advice is just so bizarre. Like, add them on LinkedIn and comment on their posts and get great. No one's going to look at that post that you've commented on of mine and then go, "Oh, I better work with him. I forgot about him. Yeah, I bet he just complimented me on my post." You know what I mean? Like bizarre sales advice.
That's because this is the weird thing about LinkedIn in particular. This happens on other platforms, but take LinkedIn in particular. A lot of the people giving business advice have never had a business. Their first and only business is this gig they've got now. So how they can tell you to, like, if you've never sold a product to a business, how could you give advice to people on how to sell a product to a business? That's my kind of thought process. And that's what that platform is. So I would always listen to or get advice from or pay attention to somebody that's actually done the thing that either you want to achieve or has got experience in that industry or sector. Because I know there's a lot of sort of LinkedIn gurus, Facebook gurus, because I joined Facebook in January because I was banned off LinkedIn for a year. And it's like they're giving advice on like how to scale your business to 6 figures. It's like you started your business from your kitchen table like a month ago. Like you probably not made 6 figures at all at any point in your adult career, yet you're selling how to do that, or worse, you're selling a course to teach others how to teach that. It's kind of bonkers, and that's kind of what social media has created. But the pandemic's helped a lot with that, though, don't you think?
Yeah. Pandemic sort of got rid of the crap.
Well, we've all been sat at home, and we've all thought, oh, we all need a side gig, a side hustle, and they've all got time to start that up now. So you'll see a lot more of this stuff. But yeah, it's like a bit of a vacuum, innit, LinkedIn? I can't tell what's real and what's not anymore on there, to be honest.
No, that's what we post a lot of things that aren't real, and you get comments from people in America saying, "There's no way you ran a marathon this morning and did 700 cold calls." So, well, yeah, obviously.
That's the maddest thing as well, isn't it? Sometimes when quite clearly you are taking the piss, it's like some people still try and correct you, and then when the penny drops and they realise they're wrong, they don't stuck up their own ass. They can't even go like, "Oh, fair play, you've caught me hook, line and sinker, you've had me off there." They then go, "Well, it wasn't funny anyway." That's like their default answer, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. So when you first started off, well, before you started your business, did you always have aspirations of starting a business, or was this something that just kind of fell into your lap? Did you always want to do it?
Yes, I always knew that I was going to have my own business at some point, even from being young, because I went to a school in North Wales and quite a lot of the parents there own their own businesses. My dad was in the army, so most of my friends joined the army, but because I went to school in England while they went to the army school, and I started to think, oh, actually, normal people own businesses, and normal people actually have a second home that they can rent out, and it wasn't as inaccessible as I originally first thought. So it's like when I was younger, I always thought I was going to have my own business, and then I deliberately chose job roles that I thought I would learn skills from to actually aid me when I finally made my choice of having my own business. I then ended up working in a startup for 2 years, and then an opportunity came to work at a brand new startup with no employees. So I was going to be like employee number 1. I took that, and then 4 years into that journey, I felt like I'd had 6 years worth of learning in a startup environment, and I felt I knew just enough, not to be successful, but just enough to give it a good go and have a crack at it. And that's what blows my mind when I see people that have never, ever worked in a startup, been in a startup environment, go and do like a 2-day course or join a Facebook group and then think that they can run a successful business like from doing a 48-hour course or, a 2-day course in a travel lodge in Basingstoke. It's probably not going to work. But the world's full of those people, whereas I didn't even feel confident after, 6 years. And then I had my own business for 3 years. So I'd probably done 9 or 10 years worth of startup business up to this point. I've done more than that now. But yeah, so I always thought I'd have my own business. Did I think I would be successful? I wasn't 100% sure. I thought I just wanted the opportunity to, how much work I put in might be relative to how much money I got out of the business, but also have the opportunity to kind of leave early and pick the kids up if I had kids, or like go on holidays when I wanted to. I wanted that freedom. But then when I dropped onto the e-learning business, I've said it like numerous times, I just wrote down a figure on a piece of paper and a date. It was 10 million in 3 years. And I backward planned that business. And I'll be honest, after about 9 months, 10 months in that business, I knew 100% that I was going to hit that. Like I wasn't going to fail. I say that I didn't hit it. I got 8 million, but I was 100% sure that this is it. Like I'm going to become a millionaire from this job. In this business.
Based on what? What were those kind of early signs that you saw?
Well, like belief. Like we were working hard. I felt it was the right market. I felt it was the right market conditions. I thought we had the right proposition. We were a genuine alternative to what was out there at that moment in time. There was lots of things that you can't replicate from going to a course or listening to a guru. There's a lot of things where, you know, one thing that bothers me is people don't like to acknowledge luck in any process or any success story, right? And I might get a lot of hate for this. You might think completely differently. Think it, and you're wrong, but I'll pretend to listen to it. But I could recreate exactly what I did the first time right now over the next 3 years, and I couldn't guarantee that 8 million sale at the end of it, because at that time there was somebody in that industry that was looking to purchase businesses just like ours, that no matter what you do, whether it's the right thing, it's the right model, the hard work and put in, that was luck. Now, the hard work to capitalize on that luck and having the right model, yes, you can work on all those bits, you can get those bits right, but you're still relying on somebody else to value your business at. And that's why I've always felt uncomfortable about actually standing on stage saying, follow my 2.5 year process to sell a business for 8 million, because I don't believe I can guarantee those results to anybody. I can tell you all the things that I did and all the smart things that I did and the stupid things that I did and I wish I'd not done, but you can't guarantee results. And that's what I've got the biggest problem with when I see marketing, shortcuts to success, almost like claiming results that there's absolutely no basis that you can guarantee that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know that just to play devil's advocate, Mike, but did you know when you said you knew at that 9 month point that it was going to work and you were going to sell it, did you know that there was that niche in that market then for this kind of, did you know that people were looking for that? Because you said there about luck.
Like I set up my business in a niche that I had no experience in. I'd never worked in that industry before. It was just that market was crying out for the product that we produce. So for those that don't know, it was like an e-learning business. Now, what most people did in them days was it was geeks that made e-learning. So it was like death by PowerPoint, and it might be like a 3-hour course, and the value would be linked to how long the course was. So it's a 90-minute course on, upselling when you're at the till, or it might be a 90-minute course on cybersecurity or whatever it might be, data protection. So that would be the sort of content where we looked at it like no one wants to sit there for 3 hours doing an e-learning course. No one gets off an e-learning course saying, oh, that was fucking brilliant. I can't wait for the next module to come out. No one ever said that. So all you needed to be was just a little less shit than everything else that was out there. And that's how we kind of market our business. I used to market on LinkedIn like e-learning shit, and we know because we make it for a living. Like
that's brilliant.
Like no one enjoys e-learning, so let's stop pretending that it's the be-all and end-all in learning, and it's the answer to all your training needs. In fact, the best learning happens on the job through experience. So why don't you reduce how long your e-learning is, make it engaging, and then introduce concepts to the learner so then they understand the language and things that are going to be introduced to them when they're actually in a live environment and a live situation. That was kind of how we marketed the business. Now, what everybody else used to do at the time was, because they were greedy, they would price per head, per course. They go, all right, so your business has grown from 1,000 to 1,020 people, right? So that means your monthly or your annual contract is going to go up by 1,500 quid or $2,000, where we just said access for your entire workforce to all of our content is 500 quid a month. And they'd be like, what if we grow and there's 1,200 people? Oh, it's 500 quid a month. We don't get it. Well, it's content. It's been made. It doesn't cost us any more money whether there's 1,200 of you or if there's 5 of you. It costs us how much it costs to make. And then if you get more value out of it and more benefit from it, brilliant. So we kind of priced it completely differently. And that's one thing I hate when I see business saying, our USP is we're just us. Like, that isn't a USP, or we're 1% less than the competition. We actually said no contracts, which nobody else did at the time. We wouldn't price per course. We wouldn't price per head. It was a monthly recurring, like monthly rolling contracts. If you don't like it, just leave. What's the point in holding someone to a contract for 4 years when they don't like it? They're going to cause you hassle. So we did that. We did new content every week, which again, nobody else did. It was sort of outdated. Here's our library of 700 courses, because they attributed value to how much content was in there. Where we were like, the mobile phone law changed. It went up to 6 points and £200 fine. We could create that course and have it out by the end of the week. So we always had like new on the pulse topics. So it made marketing was easier. But equally, the reason why we did that new content every week was we didn't have any fucking content. We were making it that week and releasing it on the Friday. We were making it that week and releasing it on the Friday, because all of our competitors have been around for like 10, 15 years building a library. We basically, we launched with 4 courses, 4 topics, and then we asked our clients, what's the biggest problem in your business do you want help with? And we just made content that helped them solve those problems in their business. So then they said, do you know what? Motivating the team's a real problem here. We'd then go and get a subject matter expert. We'd write that course up, and we'd churn out like a sort of 5-minute micro course at the end of the week. Whereas our competitors were like, oh, what, you've got a problem with motivation and stuff. Here's 18 courses to choose from. They're all 90 minutes long. So we were like the complete opposite of what was out there. And that's how we basically just steamrolled everybody.
Amazing.
Because we were aggressive as well, by the way. Like, we would go after people's clients because we knew we were going to sell. The idea was we will be nice, friendly, and try and partner some companies, because we never made an actual learning platform. And this was one of our biggest things. We made the software or the content that could work on anyone's platform. Most of our competitors tried to do both. So they tried to sell an expensive learning management system and then try and plug content into it. We just said, well, instead of trying to win that battle, well, if someone's rolled out a learning management system over 3 years, they're not going to change over a phone call. So we just said, what learning management system to use? Great news. Our content just plugs straight into that. So that meant that we could partner learning management system companies or developers. And then if there was any content creation businesses that made e-learning, we could absolutely aggressively target their client base. And we knew one of those 2 different people would have bought our business. And that's how we basically sold our business.
Wow. Amazing. It's real, like, you can talk us back to front of how that you can see that the vision was there from the start, you know, like the exit strategy.
You know why though? What's funny is, like, if you just look at the best examples of people that have done really well, like Microsoft just made software that worked on everyone's computers, where you had like Hewlett Packard and you had whoever, Apple, that were making actual computers and stuff like that. So if you can make something that works on everyone's existing system that they're used to using, it means that it's an easier sell. And also, you're not competing with everybody. The sales cycle is shorter. The sales decision goes through less people. It's less hassle to roll out. So we dropped on a kind of a model, an industry that was ripe for a business that ticked all those boxes. Can it be content driven? Can it be subscription based? Can it be genuinely disruptive? Can we market it in a way that's like opposite to everything else that's out there? So we also, I don't know if you've seen any of the views of my own stuff that we do. Like, we were really big on guerrilla marketing stunts. So we did loads of stuff that big, stuffy corporate learning companies wouldn't have done the things that we did. And we could do that. We were like doing campaigns in urinals saying, don't piss away your learning and development budget. We were taking, like, booking fake stands at events and like just leaving them empty, just saying like another boring e-learning company and just leaving it like nothing there. We were doing like a lot of shit like that none of these companies would do because they wanted to market in the proper way, you know? So we had no money as well, by the way, so that's why we had to do this stuff.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Those are the best stories rather than investment. But so I started this business back in the pandemic when I listened to a podcast with you and Benjamin, and There was another guy on there, forget his name, talking about social selling.
Daniel Disney.
That's the one. And then
I shot that myself. Do you see the difference when I'm in the studio and when I'm in my bedroom? I look like I was in a Taliban cave, didn't I?
Exactly.
Big beard on.
It looked good. It suited you. But you made a point in that basically lit a fire in my head of saying, if you're prospecting from home during a pandemic and there's no boss looking over your shoulder, you should probably be doing it for yourself. And it was like someone going like, you fucking idiot, over to... I was like, right. And it set the idea off to start off. And anyway, long story short, I started off, hired Jack in. We've just hired some new people in. But it feels like the further you get away from the source, i.e. being me, the harder it is to keep the motivation. Because why would someone else be motivated to build your business? Yeah. So what stories and advice have you got about hiring people and keeping them interested and motivated?
Yeah, so hiring is probably the most difficult thing that you'll do in a business. It's easy when it's like one or two of you and you've all got like common goal and it feels like us against the world and you're building something. But once you hit a sort of tipping point, I say anything over sort of 7 or 8, there's so many relationships and they can speak to different people and the messages get diluted and stuff like that. So that's hassle. So it's hard, really. Are you all over the place? Are you all in one office?
No, Jack runs Manchester. Yeah. I'm down in Dorset. So we're just...
I used to live in Dorset.
Whereabouts?
Do you know Bovington Tank Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not far from there, yeah. Like, I didn't live in the Tank Museum, but quite close.
You know the big tank at the front? I lived in so we're opening one down here. So we're not, but Jack's got a team in Manchester that's growing. I'm just starting to grow one down here. So we're not all together, and we work with slightly different clients as well.
Yeah, that's good. But for my actual advice in startups, and this kind of goes against, I would have said this is bad business advice, but it's good business advice. I might get lynched for this, but you want to employ people that are quite like you. And I know that goes against a lot of what everybody says, like diversity and all that type of stuff. But listen, you don't want somebody in there that's like 55, 65, and everyone else is like 23, 24. You almost want to get a core team with sort of as many shared values and the same kind of motivators as possible. Brown bros and cocaine being it for a lot of people in that demographic, especially in Manchester. And then you want them all to sort of buy into that vision. So what we did in our old business was profit share. And it was like when the business reached certain milestones. So rather than individual performance and like saying commissions linked to a certain thing, we would go like, look, these are our gateways. And once you reach these gateways, you would get profit share from the business. And that worked really, really well. So that's how we kept them motivated.
That's a great idea.
Pay a lot more. When in Learning Heroes, we paid double what everybody else paid. But then their targets would double what everyone else would double. So we'd let staff pick their own salary. So if you wanted to earn 30 grand, if you want to earn 30 grand basic, sound, but you need to make 300 grand. And you'll be amazing how many people bottle that don't want to do it. So they go, actually, I'll take 14 grand basic, but I'll take a bigger percentage of my commission. So they're the two options I do. Let them pick their own wage, but then they set their own targets to justify that. So they get an understanding of how much do I need to actually sell to get rewarded these things. There's that. Another thing that worked really well in one of the businesses that I worked in was you could see exactly how much commission every single person had made. And it was like visible to everybody. And it was kept in real time. So I could see like, why is that person getting 500 quid a month more than me? And you'd think it'd be counterproductive and cause arguments. But what it actually meant was the weaker members of the team. Do you call them that? What do you call them? I bet you've got a special name for them.
We don't say it to their face.
Yeah, but they would then go, show me how you're doing that. What are you doing differently to me? And they kind of understand and take responsibility for themselves and realize that think of yourself as self-employed. We just give you the tools. We just give you the thing that you sell. But you're your own boss. You're in charge of how much money you earn. It's not on us. You go and take things. So I've worked in a business where every member of the staff basic was made visible, their national insurance, how much we spent in milk, tea bags, and it was split all amongst the team. And you didn't earn a penny of commission until all these were paid first, and then you started hitting gateways. And that completely changed I saw that as an employee, and that made me understand how much it really costs a business for me to be sat there. Because when you're just an employee and you're not aware of those things, you think if you get $2,000 a month basic, let's just say, and you sell $5,000 worth of stuff, you're like, yeah, I bring in $5,000 a month for that business every month. When the reality is they've got to pay national insurance, you're sat there, you're using their equipment, heating, lighting, rent. You might only make them £600 after everything's come out. And I'd never realized that until I actually visibly saw exactly how much it cost for me to be sat at that seat and be privileged enough that these people had taken a chance on me to sell what they sold. And that's, I've become so aware of that. And that's one thing I noticed with when you employ people now, they don't realize the true cost of them being sat there. They think that you're not paying them what they think they deserve. So if you go, how much do you deserve? Show me how you get there. If you were me, how would I pay you $70,000 a year? Like, so now you need to make $700,000 a year. Now look at your activity. How much do you think you're really worth based on what you're saying and what you actually do? Like, you've got your dreams and capabilities mixed up here. So what are you going to do about that? Don't come to me looking for a pay rise or more money. So profit share was like the biggest thing of making everybody fully aware that we're all in this together. This is how much it all costs us to be sat here making phone calls. So no one's going to be rewarded until we've covered all these costs. And you'd put your own costs in there, by the way. If there's customer service team that aren't actual revenue generating team, you get the sales team to absorb those costs as well. I used to pay £600 towards the wages of the people that did the admin for us and stuff like that. That's how much it was broken down. I was paying £10 a month in Robinsons. Don't even drink juice. But it made me realise that, you know, everybody else does. We're all a team. So, like, we need to cover the cost of all this between us. And so they're the biggest things I'd say.
Wow.
Oh, I do like that.
How big were you when you sold? How big was the company?
My business.
Like headcount?
Yeah, so 21 one of us when we sold. Yeah, but we'd replaced ourselves in that business in the last 6 months before we sold, just so we didn't have to do a workout. So it was almost like, here's your head of sales, here's your head of marketing, here's your head of customer service, here's like your MD. This business runs without us. So when they sold, at that time we were paying ourselves $10,000 a month as a salary. So us four of us, we were taking $40,000 a month out of the business just as a salary. So they were saving that $40,000 a month straight away. And then what they did was they gave a pay rise to everybody. On the first day that they came in and bought the business, they gave a $7,000, is that $7,000 or $5,000 pay rise to absolutely everybody. Just on the spot, just like, boom, everyone's getting $7,000 a year more. Because they knew they could do that because they were saving a big chunk from us not being there. So, and that was then, because most people panic when new owners come in. They think that, oh, I know what's happening, like, is my job at risk? So by giving everyone a pay rise, I've never seen a group of people so happy to see the back of you.
Get over you so quick.
Yeah. So we didn't do a workout. We sold on the Friday, and then me and Ian, so we've got a business going now called Ian and Mike. We went in on the Monday and said, like, here's the new owners, bye to everybody. Like, see you later. So it was 32 days from the day they inquired to buy our business to the day that we had like 8 million sat in our bank account.
Wow. And did you just accept what they offered, or was it like a back and forth? And
no, they offered 7 million on they offered 7 million on the Friday. We said no. They offered 8 million on the following Monday. And then the sale went through like 30 days later.
Split between how many of you?
4. So we've got 2 million each, which isn't bad for 2.5 years' work with no experience, no investors.
Did you have the moment in your car when you got in your car after it, like, yeah, or not? Did it never?
No, this is the worst part. Like, I suddenly thought that a lot of the problems that I have and things that I think and things that I'm unhappy about and I don't feel fulfilled at and all those things, I thought, well, if I just got X, it would help, like, that problem solved, but it doesn't really. It's weird. I know people say, you know, enjoy the journey, and it's the journey. It's relief, because even then I thought, like, is this really going to happen, or are we letting people have the keys to our business, understanding it, how it works, pulling it apart? Because what you got to remember, right? We're 4 idiots from Warrington, no experience in this industry, no investors. You've got a company now that's got that much money that they can just offer you 8 million to disappear, but they want to pull your business apart for a month while they do due diligence, right? So what's stopping them being 27, 28 days in doing the due diligence, saying, actually, we don't want to go through with the purchase, but now they've known every single step of your business of how you've achieved that thing, and then they could throw 2 million at it themselves because they knew 4 of us with no money could do this in 2.5 years. They could have probably done it in 3 to 6 months if they'd thrown 100 people at it. So there was that risk. We didn't know what we were doing ultimately when we were selling. Not many people say this kind of stuff when they've had like a big success, but you kind of like, you're hoping you're not being ripped off, or you're having and you think you're saying the right things, but you don't really know. I was like, we reject the first offer. I mean, I didn't fucking know. I was just trying it on, So I just thought, well, hang on, 7 million doesn't split 4 ways nicely. Let's get more. And just by saying no, it's not enough, they come back and just offered like an extra million like that. So the sickener is they had a product that they sold for between 50 and 100 grand. So they basically offered our client base, 340 clients. They offered that big expensive product to all of our customers. They increased the price of our product by 45% just overnight. So they lost the bottom 15, 20% of their clients that were the hassle ones for us. And then they sold our product to their existing client base of over 3,500 clients. 9 months later, they sold the group for 2.6 billion.
Bloody hell.
So all we were, when you think about it now, we would just quickly get recurring revenue, do some quick cross sells, boost our recurring revenue by a few $100 grand a month, and then they knew they were going to sort of 40x, 50x that in 9 months' time. So, but what they did do, and when we sold, about having a really great team and stuff, we only sold on the basis that the new staff got shares in the new company.
Oh,
right.
So profit shares. And when we sold, so 9 months later, you had like 21-year-old lads and stuff getting like a 60 grand windfall.
Wow.
So there's one of the good luck. No, that's the wrong way. One of like the good news things is like, people say like, as long as you look after the team, but we genuinely only would sell if we knew the people that we'd built that business with were being looked after. So not only did they get a bit of a windfall when we sold as a bit of a thank you, they also then got shares and a pay rise. So they got a pay rise first, and then they got shares in the new business. So when it got sold again, they all got a few grand in the back pocket. When I say a few grand, some of them did really well. Some of them were they went from, we were paying 35 grand for a salesperson at that time. When the rest of Warrington was paying like 18. But some of those people that were there on 35 grand got a pay rise up to 70, 135 was the biggest amount that they're on. Because this was a huge company that bought us. So it's mad, isn't it?
That's fast.
But this is what's mad. I know it sounds like we're working class lads, right? So to us, like being offered like 2 million, it's like, oh my fucking God, like I've got 2 million in my bank account. But in the grand scheme of things, and this is what makes me feel like sort of crabs in a bucket sometimes, that's nothing to them. That's nothing to them. Like, what we think is like life-changing money, I'd retire on it. I'd live off the interest. And you know what? I'd build a nursing home and let everyone live there for free. That's the shit I hear from people on the playground and stuff like that, football, what they'd do if they won the lottery or they had £1 million or whatever. But the reality is, these people that are doing these deals, 2.6 billion, they've probably got a painting in their little toilet that's worth more than what we sold our business for, not us. Like, so it's all relative. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what blew my mind about the whole thing. It's like, you think that it's a lot of money, but until you're in that, and when you've got it, like, I'll be honest, like, you can burn through 2 million quid really easy. And people think, like, if I had 2 million quid, that's me set for life. It's not. It really isn't. And also, by the way, I was like 32. So I had like a long ass way to go. So I was looking for jobs and applying for jobs like 2 weeks after I sold.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have any crazy spends? Like when you saw the money hit your account, did you think, I'm going to go out and buy a bargain bucket or something mad?
I say this all the time. Right? I am the most boring person. I don't wear a watch. I drove a Ford Focus 13 plate. I still had that Ford Focus like 13 months after I sold the business. My missus said, "You're not going to." I'm going through a divorce now, but at the time, my missus said, "Why don't you buy yourself a car, like a really nice car?" So, but I only drive to the office. I don't have an office to drive to anymore. Like, so if anything, I actually need a car less now than I did like 6 months ago, a year ago. So there's been nothing extravagant. The only thing I would say that some people might go, that's quite extravagant. I bought a place in Spain, but I've been there twice. It's an investment thing. People go and rent it out and stay there. And tell you what, buying a villa during COVID Wasn't the best investment I've ever made. So I was going to do a video about that, saying like what a contrepreneur told me to invest in Spain. I'd make 4 times my money than I would renting a property in the UK, but I can't blame him for COVID. So I've never put that video out.
Wasn't
that's
Samuel
probably
Leeds,
the most extravagant thing, but equally, it's like an actual asset that I can sell. I've not actually bought anything that's just like, do you know what? I'm going to do this and it's cost me 100 grand, or I'm going to do this and it's cost me 50 grand. I was the most boring person ever. I had invested all that money within about 6 months, all of it. Of it. But I left out 3 years worth of money at 5 grand a month. So I left out like pretty much like 150 grand just to survive on, to do like my own thing. But the rest is all got squirreled away. So I've still got my money really in like 30 years time when I'm 65. That's when I'll look and go, how much money have I got? Oh, actually that's grown. Well, that's not. I act like and behave like and think like that thing never happened. It happened, boom, the money got put away. I was back to normal like 2 weeks later.
Bloody hell.
Shit.
Do you think? No, I don't think so. I think it's quite. It's hard.
Well,
do you think
weirdly all these people in the like every dad at school, every dad on the sideline in football, so many people, bathroom tilers, kitchen fitters, gas engineers and stuff like that, are absolute experts in what I should have done with that money, and they all tell me what they would have done. I've done it all wrong. Like they would have invested, they'd have left it in the bank, they'd be living off the interest. I don't know how. It's like 0.5%. So what's that, like 30 grand a year? 20 grand a year? You earn more than that now. So you're going to stop working what you do now to live off the interest on this money for less money than you're on now? It's like but that's the kind of logic and level of conversation you're having, to the point where you don't tell people what you do. You don't tell people what you did. You feel a little bit embarrassed. You can't feel down because people then say, well, how can you on your kind of money? It's like, it's not as big as it sounds. It's not as big as it sounds, because once you've sort of paid off a few mortgages and you've invested in a few properties or whatever, and the reality is your properties only pay you a couple of £100 a month, despite what the gurus tell you. When you've got to pay your insurance, your tax, you've got mortgage payments and all these different things. It's, I think you probably need 10 million, to feel like, oh, actually I can kind of be a bit extravagant and do a few bits and pieces. If you're doing it properly and you're thinking long term. Because if you think of it, like 2 million over 20 years, like how much is that? It's just like another wage, isn't it? When you think about that. But you're not going to die at 55 or 65. So when you start thinking, well, I've got another 50 years worth of life left, all you've actually done is you've just acquired an extra 20 grand a year. And when you start thinking of it in those terms, it's just a pay rise, or you've just had your salary paid up front to you. You've had 10 years worth of salary paid in like one hit. And that was the weirdest thing. I had a lot of people asking me if I'd sort them out or help them out with money and stuff.
I bet.
But what's interesting is none of those people, when I wasn't paying myself in that business for a year, none of those people were saying, oh, Mike, I heard that you're struggling a little bit to pay your mortgage. Like, here's 300 quid just to put towards your mortgage this month. So it's odd that those people would then expect you, out of your wages, to give them 20, 30 grand because, oh, we've got the same blood quite far back. We're second cousins. We're not sorting me out. You see, it's weird, isn't it? Because I didn't look at it as like a windfall. If I won the lottery, it's different because I didn't earn that. I didn't take any risk. It's pure chance. But when I've actually took a risk, quit a job, invested my own money, time, effort to grow a business and then sell it, it's weird how people would think that you would sort them out and pay them a lot of money. And I had that a lot. Conversations are so weird. Oh, my boiler's broke. Oh, that's a bit shit, isn't it, mate? Yeah, it's going to cost me 1,300 quid. Oof. Yeah, but, could you help me out? Like, when would you say that to somebody on the school run? Like, in normal life, it's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird.
But that's what people do. Or they have that conversation and they don't ask you, and then you're there thinking, were they asking me? Or am I bad for thinking they were asking me? And then you start second-guessing your own stuff. You'll meet two types of people if you ever have this, like, sort of, you get a windfall or whatever. You'll go to the pub and you'll say, I'll buy these to your mates, I'll buy these, I'll buy a round. And then we'll go, oh, look at you, flash bastard. Oh, I've made a bit of money, have you? Showing off. So you don't, and then you got the other lot saying, tight bastard, wouldn't even put his hand in his pocket and buy a round. Like, you can't fucking win. And that's what it is. So then when you're feeling a bit down about this, you can't talk to people about it because all your friends are the same, like working class. They don't kind of get it. And then that's when you go online and start looking for people that, have had this level of success. That's how I ended up in the contrepreneur world. Like, it was purely from wanting to find an expert to tell me what now. So you've achieved the goal, you've got your money, where do I invest it? That's all I wanted to do. And that's when I discovered, like, the selling from the stage, the gurus pretending they've been successful. Everyone was an Amazon best-selling author. I thought, that's a bit weird. How do they do that? And so that was purely by accident. So then I just thought, well, I can't, part of the sale was I couldn't compete for 2 years. I like making content. It's something that we're quite good at doing. So we just said, why don't we just make the content that we wish was out there, which was, you're a working class lad that's got no kind of financial literacy or whatever it might be. You kind of know you need to put some in stocks and shares. You kind of know a little bit about property. But, what if crypto is the one? What if crypto mining is a real thing? What if you can make 6 figures from doing affiliate marketing? Like, I don't think it's true, but it might be. So why don't we just record our journey doing these things and give an unbiased review on these things? And then that's what happened.
So the contrepreneurs stuff, I've got I don't know if you ever found this out, but obviously when you watch like the contrepreneur bingo stuff, it's almost like clockwork, the process that each person does. And they might be 2 people who don't know each other necessarily. So is there someone that teaches that at the root level that they all learnt that from? Yes,
there's a few people, but in the UK, there's a guy called Andy Harrington that teaches it. So he's got a company called Jet Set Speakers, and he basically teaches you how to sell from the stage. This is one of the biggest misconceptions is people think I've got a problem with selling. I love it. I love business. I love making money. I love selling. I like the process. I like how it works. But it's when you're using very strong, powerful techniques to sell something that isn't fit for purpose, doesn't do the job that it says, to the wrong person, you're being a prick, essentially. So it's like, you can use your skills for like good or bad, right? It's like a knife. In the hands of a chef, it's brilliant. In the hands of a serial killer, it's not so good, right? So there's nothing wrong with the actual tactics, but there's a disproportionate amount of people that go to people like Andy Harrington or Russell Brunson and then get caught up in it where they want to burn their audience and they overpromise and underdeliver, and then they move on to the next grift like 6 months later. So it's the same people that sell property training in 2008, 2009, 2010 that are now selling how to launch your NFT project now, how to monetize your podcast. That's what they do. They just jump from topic to topic and they just burn their audience and then just rinse and repeat the same thing in a different sector. So Andy Harrington and Russell Brunson are probably the 2 that people might know of. Andy Harrington owes me $4,500, by the way. So if you're watching this, I am definitely coming for you.
One of the ones that I spotted you don't have up anymore is that Samuel Leeds one. But that was a really good example of just giving someone a rope to hang them. You didn't really ask him any. It's just like big question.
Like what you're doing to me, exactly that.
Just like big question, and then he just went off, and then you were like catching him out on. But you said this half an hour ago. So what do you mean?
Yeah, so he's an interesting one, Samuel. He's obviously a property training for those that don't know. He got in contact with me and asked to come on the podcast. I was like, this isn't how it works, but okay. And at first I said no, and then I thought, you know what, Sam, let him come down. He came down. I asked him a question about, like, you sell a lot of training that's like no money down. I think that's wrong because you do need money. What you mean is how to buy property with other people's money. Now, that's not as quite a strong hook, is it? How to buy property using other people's money isn't going to get as many people clicking on it as no money down, right? So my point was, by nature of that advert, no money down, you're targeting people without money, which suggests that they're probably not suited for investing in property or experience in that industry. So you're sort of targeting people that are desperately trying to raise finance to do this thing, going on credit card, or probably going to go into debt to attend your course. So anyway, I brought him on. I think he wanted to be seen as being, what would you call it, like affiliated, or I've passed or endorsed the contrepreneur test. And all I did was just ask him really simple questions and let the guy answer. But because I'd never seen Samuel live, I didn't know any of his content, I just asked the audience that had attended his events if what he was saying happened or didn't happen at his events. Now that kind of unraveled for him. The weirdest thing about it was he asked to come on. He's in the interview, and that was the first interview where he's not really been able to control the narrative because he's quite a loud, aggressive sort of person. So he can shout the loudest and he can kind of intimidate people. But we weren't confrontational. We ask a question, let him talk. And quite often, we all know it in sales, when you're like talking to sales and you get them to really dig down, they kind of either they come unstuck themselves, even the narrative they've told themselves because they don't want to buy, let's just say, or they don't want to agree with you. It comes unstuck if you keep asking very basic and simple questions. So almost like you're stupid if you continue this thought process through now. And that's kind of what happened with Samuel. He then tried to copyright claim that video for saying that we'd used content that featured him that he didn't give us permission for. It's an interview with you. That's like me now, when you put this out, saying to YouTube, well, I don't agree with them using my face. It's like, you asked to be here, so yeah, so it took him 2.5 years to get that video down, but it was one of the most viewed videos because it was the first time where it gave people that felt like they'd been wronged by him, allegedly, rightly or wrongly, listen, the best training in the world, if you're an idiot and you don't do anything that you're taught, you can't blame the training for that. Do you know what I mean? We all know it. Look at, say, Benjamin Dennehy. Benjamin Dennehy could be sat there in front of a room of people that are going to implement what he says and be successful. You can sit in the front of a room and tell them to do exactly the same thing with a group that aren't going to do anything they said. Is it the training or is it the audience, right? So there's some of that needs to be taken into account. But I think Samuel Leeds had burnt so many people that it unraveled in that video. But yeah, that was the first time I kind of got a glimpse into the property training industry. And to be honest, that's one of the worst for it, by the way. And the no money down thing seems to be the most popular one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a weird one. And when you started, like you've got this money, you've got this kind of money from the business, and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and invest, or I'm going to work it out. Where was the starting point where you were like, that's dodgy. That shouldn't be going on. What did you stumble on, or what did you Google? Or?
Yes. No. So it was the very first thing was what I noticed, like, it was online, and it was the UK's #1 motivational speaker, the UK's #1 wealth coach, the UK's #1 whatever it might be. And so as a piss take, I just changed mine to the UK's #1 demotivational speaker, and I called myself a dimfluencer rather than an influencer. So I was just mocking that world. And then it was Gary Vee was coming to the UK, so I'd set up it sounds mad now talking about it, but I'd set up like a website to be like a demotivational speaker with fake dates on that was sold out and stuff. And I would do videos as if I was just about to go on stage. Like, oh, I'm looking forward to going on stage in Bournemouth or Birmingham, whatever it might be. I was just bored. I was a bored person sat at home, like, not doing anything. Couldn't get a job as an estate agent, so I was doing this for a bit of a laugh. But then people started to say that they'd been to see me. They've been and seen me, and like I was brilliant on stage, and my talks had like been inspirational and stuff, which I thought was funny because it was bollocks. So people were like lying about stuff, but it was quite amusing. So I did this, right? Anyway, so then I went to an event in London with Gary Vee on, but they don't say when Gary Vee is going to come on. So I thought we'll go down there, we'll take some photos to look like I've been and done like a packed out stage on stage with Gary Vee, and I've finally made it my breakthrough as like an on stage speaker. And the whole plan was I was going to I was writing a book at the time, which I'd called the contrepreneur, because at the time I used that word to describe people that were pretending they were an entrepreneur. So they're like, on social media, they look like they're doing all the right things, but the reality is they're not doing actually any of the work at home, which is kind of like what I was doing. I was pretending I was being successful and all this stuff, but the reality was I was just sat at home with my pants not really working, right? So that was the idea. So I was going to go there, ask Gary Vee for this forward for the book. Hoping he would give me one, but thinking he'd probably say, like, I don't know who you are, like, fuck off or whatever. And I was going to put that as the actual forward for the book, like, forward by Gary Vee, I don't know who you are, just fuck off. And that was going to be it. So that was my that was the joke, right? An expensive, long, drawn-out joke. So spent $2,000, hotels, tickets. I paid an £800 ticket, so I was sat right front row. I could ask him a question. I could have a picture taken with him and all that. I had Ian in the cheap seats with his camera so he could film some content, so we could make it look like I was on stage with Gary Vee at that moment in time for all this marketing stuff we were going to do. But then we had to wait for Gary Vee for 2 days. And in those 2 days, I started to talk to the people around me, and I was watching speaker after speaker literally regurgitate the very process that Russell Brunson teaches them and Andy Harrington teach these people. And I was watching people that didn't have a business getting whipped up and caught up in it and thought that this was their answers to their problems and getting to the back of the room and putting money on a credit card. And I remember asking them, you just signed up to a course on like how to launch your product. What product have you got? Oh, I've not got a product. So why are you spending your money on that? Like, and it, to me, I could quite clearly see that this was like set up and it was like everybody was being sold to and they were being ripped off. But what I noticed is the audience were like really desperate that this was going to be the answer to all their prayers. So I just watched the same pitch probably 14 times over 2 days. Wow. But the only thing that changed was it was affiliate marketing, it was drop shipping, it was fulfilled by Amazon, it was whatever it was. It was always something like that. So that's when I just thought, this is quite interesting. I'm just going to make content about this. And I picked a couple of the worst ones and thought, he's said a few things here now that I would like to see if they actually happen or if they do follow through with the things that they've said. So I just started following these people around the country, going to like all different ones of their events. And that's when I started to see stuff like, hang on, that was the girl that got up at the same time at the last event and rushed to the back of the room to sign. Or, hang on, she pretended to buy the course in Newcastle, but now she's signing us in London. And it was like, hang on, so you actually work for this company. And then I was noticing the same people in the audience, and I realized it's a lot darker and a lot more manufactured than you think. They've got plants in the audience, fake testimonials. And I thought, wow, I wonder how many people know that this goes on. And I just made the content about it. And what I didn't expect, if I'm honest, is that would get picked up and it would do. I made it because I was interested in it. I didn't make it because I thought I could turn this into like a YouTube channel or a business. I just thought, this is really interesting. I'm just going to record what I've seen here and put it out there. What I didn't expect, and this might sound a bit like, oh, you've Googled yourself, but I've Googled that video, and people have done breakdowns of my contrepreneur video and like, you know, how it's impacted marketing and how people refer to that when they're building their own marketing offers and stuff like that, so they don't fall victim to the. So it's had quite a big impact in marketing that industry. Like prices ending a 7 night has become a joke now, and that was like a joke at the time. But it's like, I had someone early today talking to me, and he said before he put his offer out, he went through the Contrepreneur Forum to make sure that he didn't tick any of the boxes because he didn't want to be like lumped in with that type of stuff. So what started off as a joke that I didn't really, it's a very niche joke, by the way, that I didn't think many people would be interested in. It grew arms and legs to the fact that I was then in Gary Vee's office. I've had Netflix talking about turning it into a documentary, which they ended up ripping off and putting out anyway. And they put special thanks to Mike Winnet at the end, which was nice, which I got paid for it. So loads of these things that happened, it was never the plan. And that was the thing I think that was the hardest thing. So I even had people like Rob Moore phone me up. I don't get it. Why are you doing this? Like, what's in it for you? Like, why do you keep highlighting these things? They didn't get it because there wasn't an end goal. It wasn't like I was trying to build an audience and then sell them something or sell them an alternative or a solution. I was literally making content that I was interested in and I found fascinating that I thought other people might want to see. But that's been long term, that's been at my detriment. Like, I built an audience, I was good at getting attention, but I didn't at that point go, great, well, here is something I can sell these people, or here's a problem I fix. So I kind of become accidentally good at marketing, if that makes sense, by just making content that attracts an audience. And now I've got a business that makes that same types of content for people, but, you know, I don't really enjoy that, if I'm honest.
And would you say that you're more of a marketeer or a salesman? Where did you, obviously as a business,
I think sales. I think my skill is sales. I'm good at sales. Marketing is something that I've kind of accidentally stumbled on. And because I've tested so many different things on so many different platforms, if something works, I just think, well, how do I tweak that? I'll just drop the stuff that doesn't work and I'll just keep doing the stuff that works. And so, yeah, I would say there are far better salespeople out there than me. There are far better people far better marketeers out there than me that knows proper stuff about marketing. But I'm good at just getting attention or finding like the humor in something that is like an interesting topic, or it might be a bit boring and I can make it a bit more lighthearted, or I think I'm quite good at that type of stuff. But if you ask me to say salesman or marketeer, I'd say sales. I would prefer that, by the way. I'd prefer just the phone leads that didn't know who I was and just close sales over the phone all day long. That's an easier life and a much more enjoyable life than this shit. Like, I get people now when I do generally try and sell stuff. Oh, would have bought it if the price ended in a 7. That was 5 years ago, mate.
Get over it. Well, we are hiring if you want to come and...
Yeah, well...
you can go under an alias.
Well, as long as you don't charge me for Robinsons, I'll be in.
I'm always curious, when you met Gary Vee, you know that thing when he puts his clips up, people asking questions, he's like interrupted them halfway through them answering and saying like, it's about empathy or whatever. Was he actually like that in real life? So you're in the middle of talking to him and he's just interrupting you with his own bullshit?
Right, so you can't knock the guy for what he's built, right?
No, of course.
We go there, there's like 1,000 people that work there, but none of them really enjoy it. It's cliquey as hell. It's like Social Chain or whatever it might be on steroids, right? So it's like, yeah, you can take whatever days you want off, but if you generally do take any days off, there's 100 people that want your spot. So it's like cutthroat. It's like, it's not a nice environment to be in. And Gary Vee, literally, so everybody else that was having these meetings, I was there for free because he asked me to come over, but we were at a 15-minute meeting. They're called a 4D, they actually call him. You can go on his website, you can see what he sells them for. But he has like people in rooms, and he just goes from like room to room, boom, jumps in, does his 10-minute soundbite, and gets off. But he didn't really know why we were there. To him, we're just like one of his 15, 10-minute meetings that he's having that day that's going to be content. So he tries to like shoehorn a soundbite business advice in there. And if you watch the video, it's not until we say, and we were at one of your events and we were recording, that his body language changes, and all of a sudden he then starts being quite sort of nice on camera, but he's not a very nice person. He's probably too strong. He's like a very busy man, and he's not really interested. It's like, quickly, can I say the bit I need to say, and then I'm off. That's what he's like. So he wasn't listening to us really. He was like sort of shouting at someone, that email should have been sent yesterday, and where's this, blah, 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 blah. And we're trying to talk to him. And then he's going, right, are we recording? Then he does his nice bit. But off camera, he said he'd help me as long as I made him look like the good guy, which was an odd thing to say, number one. And the second thing, he wanted 25 grand for helping me. And when I said no to that, he then backtracked and said, oh, that was just a test to see like how serious you are about this. Look, amazingly, I passed the test. But I can help you. We can do this together as long as I look like the good guy. And I was like, it's an odd thing to think. And the final, like the cherry on the cake for me was, he said that the contrepreneur had to be about someone, and he didn't like the fact, because I said I'd rather attack the principle or the process and how it works. So I thought, explain the process, so then other people, smart people, could go, I'm going to now apply that process to this guy that's trying to sell me something, or that guy that's trying to sell from the stage to me. And then they could decide, does this tick enough boxes, or is there enough red flags here to make me do some due diligence, or not part with my money, or take a couple of days to think about it, whatever it might be. So I thought, explain the process, you can help 1,000 people, right? So it's what? Teach a man to fish, give him a fish. That kind of thought process. He said, no, it's got to be about someone. He wanted like a scapegoat. And he said, by taking that to Netflix, it's brilliant, right? Like that they'll be on board with it. So he said to me, I want to know who's the worst person that you've come across in all the things that you've done, like all the research that you've done. So I said, fine, turn the camera off, because I said I wouldn't say it on camera. Turn the camera off, and I told him who it was. And Gary loved it. He was like, yes, I can't stand that person. He's the worst in this industry. He gives the industry a bad name. Like this, I've got bad vibes from him. I hate seeing him at events and blah, blah, blah. All these things. Put the cameras back on. Yeah, I'm willing to help you, blah, blah, blah. So it looks like it's gone quite well with Gary. Fast forward 3 months. Gary's A, not given us the Netflix intro yet. And then B, posted on Instagram photos of him with the person that he said he couldn't stand, was the worst in the industry. He never would want to be seen doing stuff with him. And they went and did a lot of content together and still speak at some of the same events. And that's when I kind of... What's weird is, by the way, Gary fanboys would say, oh, you're salty because Gary never come through with the Netflix thing. Like, I wasn't asked about the Netflix thing. I was doing what I was doing anyway. He suggested Netflix to me. I'm not going to him and gone, can you sort out Netflix for me? And as it happened, I managed to get Netflix to come and talk to me anyway. But I'm not salty about Gary. Like, the guy's a businessman. I think it's sound that he can charge people 15 grand for a 10-minute meeting. I wish I could. What's clever is he gets them to pitch their business. If it's a really good business idea, he offers to invest in it. If it's a really shit business idea, he tells them it's a good business idea, and then just has a photo with him, and they get their social media clip, which is all they wanted anyway because they're happy for it. So he's got a nice little set there. He's basically got Dragon's Den, only you're paying to pitch, essentially. Do you know what I mean? So it's clever. And he's been clever by getting on TikTok and getting on Instagram and getting on the social media platforms that his peers, other 45-year-old businessmen, would never go on them platforms because they're too childish. But what he's done is he's been the go-to guy for 14, 15, 16-year-olds for the last sort of 4 or 5 years. But they're now turning into the Gymsharks, the social chains. So he's been smart because he's been on their radar since they were teenagers. So he's almost gone like a long-term strategy to becoming the go-to, because he's the Richard Branson to kids nowadays, right? My age group, we'd look at like Richard Branson and people like that and say, oh, they're proper businessmen. But he's made sure that he's the go-to person for anyone that's aged between probably 19 to 24 that are now, they're bringing out apps that are changing the world and stuff like that, but they all worship Gary Vee. So you can't knock the hustle. I don't mind the guy. I didn't even mind that he tried to pump me for 25 grand, like, because it's just business. Do you know what I mean? But he is a bit snide. Because like he's there telling me that he wants to throw this guy under the bus, but then he also wants to do content with him. I did explain to him that the audience is only the audience because Gary Vee's name is at the head of the flyer, and that's who everyone's going to see. No one gives a shit about some guy that we don't know selling an affiliate marketing course that we've never heard of that's paid to be on stage. We're there to speak to Gary Vee or see Gary Vee. So he could run them events without those things. But no, he'd rather just get paid his money, 100 grand, 250 grand, whatever he gets paid, to show up, talk. And he knows full well that everybody that talks before him is flogging stuff to people that probably shouldn't be there, buying, affiliate marketing, dropshipping fulfilled by Amazon, NFTs, crypto courses. They don't need it. What they need to do is just work hard, go and work in a startup for 2 years and learn properly. Yeah. That's what they need. Get paid to learn.
Did you meet any of the other ones on your travels?
Other ones as in
the Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez.
I've seen them all. I've seen Grant a couple of times. Seen Ty Lopez. And the funny thing is, this is what bothers me a little bit about the internet. Everything's like polar now, isn't it? So it's got to be like Brexit. You either remain or leave. And it's like Republican, Democrats. Everything's like dead extreme, and social media promotes that because obviously then it creates comments and engagements, and that's what they thrive on, and that's when they can charge the money, right? So I get it. But what I find mad about, especially my audience and a lot of people online, I've seen Grant Cardone. I think he's a prick. Like, I think he's a studio salesman. He actually recruits for the Church of Scientology, right? So that's essentially what it is. He's like the face for that. He can do loads of research on it, but it's proper dark what he's involved in. But he's a joke, pretty much, right? 10x, shouting 10x, then inserting random business words is not a business strategy, right? It doesn't work, right? Just 10x customers. Yeah, but how, Grant? Like, tell me how. And also, why stop at 10x? If you're making up numbers, why stop at 10? Why not just say 27x? It's a soundbite, right? It's nonsense. But there are some things that he says that are true. And this is what I don't get about this. Some of the people that will go, I love Gary Vee. Everything Gary Vee says is true. It's not like good people can sometimes say shit things or the wrong things or things that don't make sense or are bad advice. It doesn't mean you have to then hate absolutely everything they say or do, right?
Yeah.
Some of the worst contrepreneurs that I've seen, Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, they might say 3 or 4 things that actually make sense and like might actually help your business. But but people seem to be unable to just take the bits that would benefit them and ignore the rest. It's either I love Tai Lopez or I hate Tai Lopez. And that's what I find quite difficult, or I don't get with a lot of people. Like now, with me, with Gary Vee, it's like, you hate Gary Vee, you're always trashing him. Like, no, the guy does loads of good stuff. The guy does loads of shit stuff. I don't either hate him or like him. He's just another business bloke. But yeah, Tai Lopez is funny. He's now flogging NFTs. He was doing social media marketing a few years ago. He was doing subscription book courses where he would actually read a book for you and distill it into 7 key points. Just like mad shit, isn't it? It's just mad shit. But again, he told me a few things that I saw there, and it turns out it's true. You know, like certain types of pictures perform better on Instagram. I learned that from Tai Lopez. Does that mean I'd give him $2,000 for a course? No. Does it mean I hate him? No. He's just a guy that's good at marketing that just sells shit products to even shitter people. You know?
Yeah, I do. So I suppose Mike would draw into the end now. What's next? I mean, it must be weird when you've already done something successful. You've already built an audience. How do you get out of bed in the morning?
So I am doing Views My Own, which is a business community. I've gone full circle and become the contrepreneur. What I've done there is I would essentially get asked pretty much the same 3 questions, worded in slightly different ways, which was, how did I grow an audience? Like, how did it generate so many leads? And how did I sell my business? Essentially, it's those 3 things constantly. And I was getting, this is no exaggeration, maybe like between 100 and 200 messages per week across social media saying, how do I do this? Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I always used to say, like, I've got a video about that on YouTube, or I've spoken a podcast about that on YouTube. Like, here it is, just watch that. But people still keep asking the same questions. There's something about people wanting to ask the question, you answer their question to them, even if it's the same thing you've told them. So, do you do mentoring? Will you like be like a consultant? Will you help me with my business and blah blah? Can I just pick your brain? I got sick of people offering, can you tell me how you sold your business for 8 million? You know, I'll buy you a coffee and you can tell me over an hour. It was by not doing shit like that. It was by not giving away an hour of my time to have coffee with an absolute stranger that I don't know anything about, to then help them grow their business to become 8 million quid. So I basically said, I will answer all your questions, but so I can record it and give the answer once, and you can do what you want with it. And that's kind of what Views My Own was. I just basically, everything I've learned about sales, marketing, scaling, backwards planning a business, how did I sell, what were my sales strategies in terms of creating competitive tension and all these different things. I just answer a different question of that every week. And then I set people challenges with the stuff that I do. So like an example was, I've got you'll know it, like the close the file email, for example. So I've got like, I use this, whenever I had a lead that was dead, I would use this template. Here it is written for you. Just copy and paste that and send it to all your dead leads from 2021.
That's
and
amazing.
People are like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Like, I've got 20 grand's worth of business or 40 grand's worth of business. So I'm not promising you anything. My tagline or promise is, it will make your business a little less shit. So that's all I'm promising you. If you do these 52 things that I tell you about, in a year's time, your business will be in a better place than it is now. That's it. And so that's what I do. So you've got access to me, you've got access to Dan, you've got access to some guest experts. I know you guys have helped me with some stuff as well. And it's just, here's a problem that people are having in their business. Here's how I've solved it in my previous business. Here's a guest expert. Here's best practice. Here's your challenge this week is to just do X. Let us know how you get on. And it's gone quite well, actually. So that interests me far more than making video content for people, if I'm honest. Because I feel like... Go on.
I was going to say no more YouTube. Is that it?
It's odd, isn't it? Weirdly, the channel still makes a few quid. It makes about 500-600 quid a month, and I've not uploaded for 11 months. I just think I'd got bored and I burnt out of doing the same kind of content constantly for no rewards. Because what happened with, I got hit with like $4,500 legal fees in December for videos that I did 2 years ago. I'd lost my Instagram account. I had my LinkedIn account deleted for 11 months. And I felt like I was a class clown. You know, in school, right, that you've got the lad that like prats about and makes everyone laugh, and everyone finds it funny because it's like a bit of a distraction. While you're working, he's quite funny. That's what I was. as soon as I then wanted to try and do something serious and like, actually, do you know what? I want to do business again. Everyone's like, well, you don't do that. You make us all laugh. And everyone got a bit of a cob on. I'd stop entertaining them. I'd become, oh, actually now my non-compete is out of the window. I can now go back to doing what I do best, which is creating stuff and making learning resources and helping people improve parts of the business. So I kind of felt like I was making content for, I don't know how to say it nicely, a community that wouldn't really support me financially if it come down to it, or didn't really care that I was having legal fees or problems. Because if I said, I've just had to pay $4,500 out in legal fees so you can laugh at a entrepreneur bingo video, would you help me cover these legal fees so I can continue making content? What do you think most people would have said?
No way. Get lost.
Yeah, but that was the truth. I was making content and like having legal letters, solicitors' letters, having copyright strikes, having to pay legal fees, having to pay compensation, fight defamation claims. So if I do return to YouTube, it will be still a bit cheeky, still a bit naughty, but it won't be like that. I'm not going to be the class clown anymore. It's like, look, this is for the ones here that actually, I've told you not what to do. I've spent a year doing that. I've told you what to look out for with the contrepreneur stuff. I've told you who to avoid. Now I'm going to show you, because I get asked this quite a lot. Well, what's the alternative then? Like, what do you recommend? So I'm going with views of my own, and the stuff that I do now is going to be, this is what I invest in. This is exactly what I do to build a marketing campaign or to do content marketing, or this is what worked for me in my own business. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. But it's going to be more, this is for the more serious people that want to still make it fun and entertaining, but essentially it's going to be less calling Grant Cardone a twat and stuff like that, and more like, actually, here's a great way to, use content marketing to grow your audience or whatever. So,
right, okay.
So that was a really shit plug for views of my own, by the way.
I was going to say, if people want to find it, what do they need to do?
Yeah, so viewsaremyown.social. So there's video content on there. We talk about what's happening in marketing, sales, and business every month. A few like sort of controversial-ish topics. Like, is April Fool's marketing wank? Were Thursday really trying to rob creatives? Or was it just good marketing? It's just stuff like that. So we talk about stuff like that, but then it will be something to improve your lead generation, your marketing results, and your sales ability every week. And that's it.
Amazing. Perfect. Right, we'll stick a link in the bio for this, but really appreciate it. I feel like I could have a chat with you all day about different things, but
I was better at this one than I was at the one that I've just done before this, by the way. I actually apologise for that, because I was like, oh, sorry, mate. So.
No, you're brilliant, mate. Really, really good. It's loads of food for thought for us as well, on a personal level, so really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Are you in there, Views of My Own, by the way? You better both be in there.
We're not, but after this, I feel absolutely inspired to do it.
You've got to, because, I've got a new monthly recurring revenue business to build here.
You've got all those legal fees to pay off.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as it doesn't end at a 7, we're in.
I'd say £15 a month. Be sound.
Bang.
Nice one.
That's the easiest sale you've ever done.
See you in a bit.